Let me fix my camera. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I think I got better lighting while I moved my desk. How y'all doing? Welcome in. Welcome in. Happy Thursday. Let me open up the chat. How's everybody doing tonight? If it's your first time here, welcome. Thanks for joining me. If it's not your first time here, which I'm sure I have many returning guests, how are we doing tonight? It's so nice to see y'all again. Hi, Melissa in Minnesota. Where is everybody else at tonight? I am, we were getting so warm in Pennsylvania and it's cool again. Hi, Rocky, aren't you in Japan? Were you in Japan? Am I crazy? Did I misread that somewhere? Let me know. In about 5 days. Oh, okay. I'm like, what are you doing? Hi, Rocky. Oh, we got a question in here. Hold on. Who's in there? Oh, hi, Heather in Pittsburgh. Welcome. Oh, there you go, popped it in there. Orlando. Hi, Carolyn. So everyone, in this first couple moments, if this is your first time here, thank you so much for spending some time with me on a wonderful Thursday evening. My name is Laura DeVega, and I am the Director of Agency Development at World Via Travel Network. And if it's not your first time here, welcome back, guys. I'm so happy I can already see some names I know. Oh, hi, Jennifer. You just popped in. I'm so glad to see some of my usual suspects in here, I guess is the way to put it, which it brings me a lot of joy. I started this now, which is crazy to think I started this in August of last year. And to think now that we're in March, I was thinking of this day, I'm like, I want to go back and see how many episodes we've done so far. Because I feel like when we get to 50, which I know we're still a ways away from, but when we do, I feel like that's got to be something special. So, again, I have been in the industry, if this is your first time here, for over 13 years, going on 14 years. And I have seen many travel lives. I started as a travel advisor, worked on the supplier side, then moved into, and then moved on to, when I was on the supplier side, I was with the business development team, worked in national accounts, went on to run that team, and then now work in the lovely host agency. And something that's consistent in the years that I have been in this business, I'm going to move my desk in a little. You guys are going to see that happen in real time because I have a moving desk. I'm just more comfortable at this rate. But one thing that was always consistent when I was speaking with individuals out in the wild is the need for personal and professional development. It's just not there. We do really well on a lot of specific topics, but we kind of lose it along the way for some reason with personal and professional development. So I wanted to create a space to do that and a free space because I know in the beginning stages it's expensive and also like why have to spend money if you don't need to? So, a couple things. If it's your first time here, I'm going to pop the Facebook group in here. Go ahead and add yourself to it. What we do in there is we post past episodes. You find out what episodes are coming up. If there's any exciting news or things going on, I'll post it in there. Like, for example, I will be at the Asta River Cruise Expo next week. If by chance you'll be attending, I hope I'll see some of y'all there. If not, I hope I'll see you at the next event. But hold on, let me grab this link real quick and I'll pop it in the chat. But you can see past episodes in there. You'll see upcoming episodes in there. You could request certain episodes in there. I haven't planned out for the next year, but I would love some feedback because I don't believe that I am the be all know all of what people want to hear on your Thursday nights. And lastly, just thank y'all for joining me, whether you're eating dinner, whether you're hanging out, whether you're wrangling kids or grandkids or watching me while you're watching the TV or scrolling on your phone. I appreciate the visit. So tonight we're getting into, I'm going to take a little sip of my warning for those of you that were here that week. And I know some of you were. I do have a water with just a little bit of energy drink in it. So if I start talking fast again, just warn me to slow down. All right. So tonight we're getting into a topic that I feel like I unintentionally have brought up week over week. And I've been like, I really need to talk about that. I really need to talk about that. and wasn't getting there. And finally, it has come up in the mix, which is we are talking about pricing strategies, which I think is incredibly important. Okay. So I think this doesn't matter whether you are brand new, because you're setting your pace, right, for getting into the industry. You're setting exactly what you want to set up for yourself, what kind of standards you want to build into your business, what you want to be doing with your what image you want to be putting out to the world. If you are established, I can't tell you how many of I speak with you on a regular basis that have not done this. I actually had meetings this week with an individual that just did it. I speak with advisors all the time that are afraid to do this. So I think this is a great topic to get into. I reference it in many of the past topics because it comes up on whether you should, whether you're weighing your value, things like that. I will tell you this week, if you ask for it at the end, if you send me a message, I'm going to pop my email up. Actually, let me just pop the presentation up there so you can see my email in advance and you can write it down. I have like a little worksheet that'll help you as well as like a post work. You don't have to do it. You don't have to send it to me. It's just helpful for everybody if you want to take part in it. But it will help you in kind of figuring out what your cost is, what your value is, per se. And I think that's incredibly important. So let me go ahead and share the screen. If it's your first time here, I prefer if you're chatting away with me in the chat. It makes it a heck of a lot more interesting for yourself and for me. So please, please do so. Are we up there? Beautiful. We are up now. Okay. So let's get into it. Conquering pricing tactics for your agency's success. My email address is up there. Grab that, take a screenshot. You're going to say it's a little quiet on the chat. It is quiet in the chat tonight, Rocky, but I will tell you some of the people that are always chatting away, I don't know if they're on tonight, but that's okay because I think some are traveling, but that's okay. We're going to get new chatters because I can see some new people on the and how many people are in here. So I'd love to hear some voices in there chatting along. And now, Rocky, you've just elected yourself to be that individual. So we're going to be talking pricing tactics, right? Pricing strategies, why it's important. There's a lot of pieces to this, right? So this is deeper than just charging money. It's not just about making money. It's about keeping your business sustainable, right? Because at the end of the day, I've said this the last couple of weeks, this is very relevant. We can all love travel. We all do love travel, but we can't pretend that at the end of the day, this isn't about making a dollar. This isn't about being successful. This isn't about giving yourself something you're proud of, right? So it's about sustainability. It's about building confidence and giving your clients a confidence in you. And it's about client perception, right? We got some comments in there. Brand new and really don't know what to charge. Heather, well, we're going to talk about it because that's a very good point. Sometimes when you're coming in, you're like, how do I charge this? What's appropriate? What makes sense? We're going to talk through it. And there's going to be times when you can and you can't. And I think that's going to take a minute to get a hold of in your head of how to do that. But it's not difficult once you kind of bite the bullet and start. And Melissa Hale from sorry, I was a bit sidetracked from the beginning. That's okay, Melissa. I thought you were in here. Welcome. Well, you said, well, I said hello to you already, but welcome back in. Ed says, are planning fees more about making more money or more about eliminating tire kickers? Woo, Ed, you just nailed what we're going to talk about in a bit, but I'm brief into it. It's a little bit of both, right? So for me, service fees is less about doing it just to do it. It's more about knowing your value and also drawing in the proper kind of clientele because I can tell you from my own experience, we have some other experienced members in here tonight. I'd love to hear your kickback, but the reality is you spend a whole lot of time pricing for people that never book. You spend a whole lot of time pricing for people that they take that information and they book it themselves. You take a whole lot of times pricing things for people and they take it down the road and book it with somebody else. So depending on how you implement your service fees and the way you do this for yourself will be very helpful in one, drawing the right kind of clients because you're going to get some kickback, but we'll talk through it in a second, what that will look like and how to handle that. It's also going to build confidence because I'm going to be real with you. I pay an accountant to do my taxes because they're the professional. I see the value in that. It's all about value. We've talked about value the last few weeks, and that's important to point out, but it also makes you more money. Let's be real here. But again, it's about the value of your time. So I'm not telling you by any means, nor should you price gouge your clients. That's not what this is about. And I also want to make an important point. My first few years in the industry, I didn't charge a single service fee. Now, let me backtrack why. I come from a very, I don't want to say, I don't want to say very, I say areas around where I live are low income. So I knew when I was building traction in my beginning stages, I just needed to book quantity, and get a lot of clientele and get some referrals and build a book of business. And then I implemented fees. And now I know that is scary. And I know that feels gross, and we're going to talk about it later. And it shouldn't feel gross, and you'll understand why when you talk about it. But I knew coming in, I could not do that because I think I referenced this a few weeks ago. I had people coming in with printouts from the internet. I was in a storefront. People would walk in with the sheets and they'd be like, Laura, I saw this for 97 cents on Expedia. I want you to get that for me. And I would have to play that game. And when you're playing that kind of game, it's much more difficult. And especially when you're trying to build clientele, it's much more difficult to charge service fees. Now, what I can tell you I did once I built trust with those individuals, then I was able to work it in another way later on, as far as like their next booking. What about charging a fee that can be applied to a trip? Like if clients book with me, but it's not refundable. We're going to talk through this. And hey, you're jumping in my presentation. It's like you helped me make it. Rocky, I've charged a planning fee from the start. It's not crazy, but it's tiered. All 18 months I've been doing that. And listen, you started off strong because so many people are intimidated by that. And I'm going to talk through that, but really, it's so incredibly important to know your value. And sometimes that's tough, especially when you're like, I just want someone to book with me. I just want to get that first trip out. But the reality is, if you set a standard of practice in place, an SOP, as some people call them, right from the get-go, right from the jump, people are not going to be alarmed by it. Again, it's about explaining your value, and we'll kind of talk through that. These are great intro comments, guys. I love this. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about effective pricing models. Okay. We're going to talk about how to implement these service fees. And I'm also going to talk through some like psychological tactics that can help with this, and how for you to kind of confidently charge what you're worth. So let's get into it. This is one of my favorite topics. And I will say I have found, I'm playing with my hair a lot tonight, guys, and people have called me out on that, so I apologize. But this is my most effective course. I've taught it different ways. This is definitely more overview. If you want to talk more in detail, feel free to reach out to me. This is the most effective one that I feel like it gets across to people the most. I feel like this is the one that is most underutilized. And I think this is the one that can help you the most to really set up your business structure correctly. So, nope, it's not clicking. Let's try it again. Drama. Hey. So why pricing is a game changer for your agency? 50% more revenue. That sounds appealing, yes? And now I know it's not all about money, but at the end of the day, I like 50% more of anything I'm trying to get in my hands, right? Agencies with service fees earn 30 to 50% more per client than commission-only agencies. That's sink in for just a moment. And that is a statistic that comes straight from ASTA. 30 to 50% per client. That's a whole lot of money, even if that's only $100 booking. So you're making $100 in commission, which is minimal on a trip. You usually make much more than that, but if someone's making 100, you're making 130 to 150. If you were making 500, you're now making, fast math, 650 to $750. It's a lot more appealing, and that adds up a lot faster. Rocky, I only made 4,500 in my first year of commissions, but I made an additional 1,000 on just service fees. That is a quarter of your intake, Rocky. 25%. Yes, whoever put that confetti out. Yes, that is a huge deal. That and by making the decision, because you've done it immediately, that is money that is yours. And that's a big piece of it too. And we'll get into the different kinds of fees you can do. But when you set it in certain ways, it's money that you know is yours no matter what. Because listen, people are flighty. Things happen. Emergencies happen. Pandemics happen. So you need a fall safe for yourself. And I have seen a much higher implementation of service fees post-COVID. I will say that. But still people are nervous. 72% client acceptance. This is the percentage of clients willing to pay fees when they understand the value. What do I mean by that? I think you know. So this is not, and we're going to talk through how to speak this out, but this is not, I have a $100 planning fee. I have a $250 planning fee. Okay, great. I'm going to keep moving. What? What does that even mean? We're going to talk through how you can present this in different ways, but it's explaining to them what they get for that money, why you charge that money. So whether that's, and this is going to be you kind of figure out your comfort zone here, but it's, listen, I do extensive FIT planning. I make sure you have all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and I make sure you know where you can go for this, and you know how to get onto your, into your transportation. And I make sure you know all these individual pieces, and that takes time and research and effort. And with that, I also give you 24/7 support. I'm available to you when you're traveling. I also give you after support, like list your value for them, and then you go and you get all that for $150. You get all that for $300, and you'll understand why I'm saying different fees in a bit. But selling the value, telling the story. So we talked about selling value for the trip itself a few weeks ago. That is just as equally important when you are selling yourself. Because that is what you're doing. You are selling yourself. You're talking about why you're a professional. You're talking about what you could be doing for them, how you can be assisting them. And again, preventative maintenance, I say it all the time. What could come up that you're there for? Ed, might be the 30 to 50% more be a result of the clients that are not willing to pay planning fees and lower budget in general, leaving and having more. Possibly. That's not, listen, and I want to be clear. You'd be surprised the share of individuals that when you implement the fee turn you down. Everyone thinks it's more than it actually ends up being. You are going to hit a percentage of individuals that go, a planning fee? Well, I can do this myself for free. Well, I heard that, right? Now there's a way to approach this, which is it can be part of their booking. And then they get, but well, I'll get into that. I don't want to spoil the beginning, but there could, listen, it could be that, but also I think it is just in general, depending on what you're making on a trip. Let's just throw fast math out there, right? Say you make, it's a trip that you make $500 on, and you have a set $100 planning fee. That is 20% of what you would have made on that trip that you get extra because of that planning fee right out of the gate. So, and if you're doing an FIT, I dare say you do much higher than $100. So again, you have to, and don't forget where planning fees are incredibly important are the ones that you're making a low amount of commission on, right? So what you would have made, which would have been maybe like 8-10%, but now because of this $200 planning fee, you're making 30% of what you would have made. So that's where those numbers are coming from. Rocky, I had a guy with $15,000 budget last month turn down my planning fee. Interesting, but a couple of young women with a $2,000 budget pay my planning fee. So it just depends. That's very interesting. And then listen, I have a tattoo, same night, of course it was right. I have a tattoo of a teacup. And the teacup, I'm not afraid to mention this. This teacup looks like a little pumpkin. It's meant to be like a pumpkin spice tea, a pumpkin spice latte. I love spooky stuff, whatever. But the reality is, you're not everybody's cup of tea. And that's why I have that too, as a reminder to myself. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. And you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and they're going to think they know more, and they're going to think they're going to go somewhere else. And I guarantee somebody that has a $15,000 budget, he's booking the type of trip that he goes somewhere else. If they're not charging a planning fee, they might be hiding a service fee. It's just reality. And there's also this reality that there's some people that will not pay it. And I say this to my children consistently, and I think I even said it last week. At the end of the day, other people's opinion of you are none of your business. So why they choose to move on from you in that space, if they couldn't pay that small fee, but he had a $15,000 budget, does not matter. Other people's opinions of you are none of your business. Let them think them in that manner. Now, if you're delivering bad service, different conversation. Heather, saw the value in with their lower budget and knowing you could help them stretch their money. Absolutely, great point. Those young women went, oh, he knows what he's doing. He's gonna help us. We can only work within our means, and this is what he's here for. They're happy to pay it. There's also some. We are on a tangent. We're only on slide 2, but there's also, if you do some research, I wanted to put some of these statistics in there, but I didn't want to get too nerd heavy that I can get on this. There is some age banding, they say, on the willingness to pay service fees, which is very interesting, but I don't want to go down that road. But there is a statistic that younger generations, Gen Z in particular, are more willing to pay for a service than their generations above them. Because they're like, oh, I'm not the professional on this. I will pay a professional to do this. It's a very interesting thing. And they say the generations, which millennial is very guilty of this, is which I'm on the end of millennial. I'm right on the edge of millennial and Gen X, but Gen X, millennial, because we grew up with technology, we think we can do it ourselves, which we can't more often than not, and you all know that. Always those are the ones with the issue. The boomer generation's pretty good about it because again, they understand the value. But anyways, it's interesting. I recommend you look up the this isn't just service fees for travel. This is just service in general. It's a very interesting statistics that are out there that they claim it's age banded. Anywho, but the last piece and kind of what Heather just touched on is brand perception. This is, I wrote higher prices associate with a greater expertise, and not quite that, but what it is again, it's showing your professionalism. This is a fee that I charge because you know you can trust me. You know I'm going to put together something solid. I'm going to find the best value for you. That's what you get this with this dollar amount. I'm Gen X at a 50 and totally know what I do to plan my trips. I would pay for it. Fair enough. Listen, I'm not saying everybody. I'm just saying, and when I read the statistic, it was like paper proof of my own family, like that wouldn't book with me on a paper. It's not for everybody, but I know like I have I'm like the end of millennial going into Gen Z, and I have a lot of friends that think they can do it on their own and then end up coming full circle and coming back. So but again, I'll look into it. I could have been wrong with it, but it's the generations that grew up with like they know already. But it also goes into my theory that travel is the only industry where even you could be a professional in it, but everyone you know knows more about it than you, which is so fun. Oh no, I didn't think you were, Heather. Don't worry. Heather said she didn't. If you're not in the chat, she said, I'm not saying you were wrong. No, I don't think you were at all. Listen, it's what is interesting about it to me is that the Gen Zs of it are more willing to pay that fee, which I think is, my slides will not click. Everybody bear with me. I've clicked like 4 times. There we go. Okay. Now, understanding your worth. The myth, I'll make it up in my commission. Maybe. The reality, commissions are not consistent and suppliers can cut rates whenever they want. How many people in here have went to book a hotel and you assumed, because hotels you roughly, depending on the hotel you're booking, you're getting anywhere from 8 to 12% commission if you're booking it through a bed bank. Through a wholesaler, you might get a little bit more. How many of you gone to book a hotel? Oh, I'm moving a lot, I'm sorry. Thinking you're going to get that rate, and all of a sudden it's an 8, well, I should say, or it's like 8 or 6% commission rate, thinking you were going to get 12. I started with 8. I gave my lead out there to begin with. I can't tell you when I first started. Yep. I can't tell you when I first started. When I go like, oh, I'm looking at Vegas. This is Vegas is one of the guilty ones, right? But I'm like, oh, it's like a $500 hotel. I'm at least going to make $50 on it. And like my commission was $17. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? What just happened here? Did I fall asleep? Because one, those kind of hotels can be any rate they want. Wholesalers can respectfully, if they have different contracted rates with their suppliers, they have to implement that with their markups and things. So it's not always a guarantee that you get certain commissions. And also, you just don't know. There could be a lot of non-commissionable fares. There could be that are a part of it, or taxes and things. Think about cruises. Like sometimes you don't know what you're getting commission on. Sometimes even with a group tours, you don't know that. It's not consistent. You don't know. And also the most inconsistent thing is the trips that you spend the most work on, which are your FITs, where you're planning out every little, For anyone that doesn't know what I'm referring to, if you're brand new with FIT, it's like building an individualized tour. When you're say going to different destinations across Europe, or even you can do FITs throughout the United States, different national parks. Like it's a fully individualized tour planning. So, but if you're unfamiliar, that's what I'm referring to. But that takes a whole heck of a lot of work. And I'll go back to my national parks example, right? You're booking hotels in Yellowstone. You're booking hotels in the Grand Canyon. You're booking those hotels are not paying you a whole lot of commission. And you're doing a whole lot of work to book them at an individual, make sure in and out at the right places, making sure you're getting their pathway the right way. Make sure you're getting all the excursions along the way, making sure you're doing all these little things, and you're making 10% commission. Some excursions, right? You make next to no money on, and you're doing all this work, and at the end you make about $200. It's not worth it. It's not worth your time. Now, you can make it worth your time. That's the whole point of tonight. And then what I put as the shift is instead of why would clients pay me, it's more why wouldn't they? And that's a mind shift you have to do for yourself. So many people, when I bring up the idea of service fees, I can see it in a room because I've done this live in classrooms full of 10 people, full of 30 people, full of 50 people. And about a little over a quarter of the room when I say, why wouldn't they pay you? Or why would they pay? Or like, or something like, why wouldn't they pay you? Everyone goes, well, everyone's got an answer. Well, it's hard where I live. Well, I need to get clients. Well, I'm just trying to get that first booking. And let's be clear. I started this conversation saying to you all, my first few years in the industry, I did not charge a single service fee. So I get it. But that doesn't mean you can't make a shift. Or it doesn't mean you also can't prepare yourself to make the shift later. And that's what we're kind of talking through. You're the expert. You're doing the research. This is your time. Make sure it's worth it for you. And an exercise to do that is in the worksheet that I can send after is taking your last trip or your first trip or a potential trip if you haven't booked one yet. But I know I've got a lot of experienced advisors on here. I know you have a handful of people that you have already booked. And if you don't charge service fees, I want you to go and look at the last trip you booked that you made okay commission on. I want you to take a minute to figure out about how many hours it took you to plan it. I want you then to take how many hours that you dealt with customer service issues on that. There might be none on that, but just keep it into play. I want you to take into consideration how many hours it took for follow-up, if there was any reservations made, if you booked any excursions for them. I want to take all the time and I want you to divide that commission out by the time spent on it. And is that hourly rate worth it? More often than not, when I ask this question and you aren't charging service fees, the answer is no. I just, and I don't think I won't mention her name, but I'm working with a member within my own network. We met up in the first quarter. Ooh, use the Clockify website app. I have never heard of that, Rocky. Good to know. I met with her in Q1. She had an incredibly successful first year. She wants to keep scaling and getting bigger, better, best. And she said, I spent so much time in the last year crafting an incredible agency and I didn't make nearly enough money. She said, I need to charge service fees. I don't know where to start. So I did this one-on-one with her and we went through each piece of the things that she sells and where it makes sense. And we also discussed profit drivers, which you know is a big passion piece for me, but knowing which of your bookings make sense and which of your suppliers make the most sense for you to make the most money. We went through that and then she implemented service fees. And we re-met this week and she goes, well, that was scary, but it's already been so much easier. Now, what she said, and I can tell you for real time of people, how many people turn around, she had about 3 so far in a quarter go, that's not for me. I don't want to pay that. And 3 and a successful agency, I don't think is that big of a deal. Now, where she's in places where she's implementing it later, so there's some people that already exist that she can't apply with, but anyone coming in forward, she can do it. And if you have ICs, you can do it where you can work it into your terms and conditions, so they don't have to imply it, but they can if they want to. There's ways around it. But one of the first things she said to me, she's like, I made the right decision. It was easy once I just did it. And I know you'll feel the same. So that's that mindset switch of instead of why would they pay me? Why wouldn't they? You're the expert. So people will pay for convenience. They'll pay for expertise. they'll pay for stress-free planning. I will pay for convenience inside and out. Listen, guys, DoorDash and Uber Eats would not exist if people wouldn't pay for convenience. Because I'm gonna tell you what, there's a thing on the internet right now. I could drive 6 minutes and save myself $100 ordering something from DoorDash, but will I? Depends on the day. Depends on if it's my turn to cook, because I don't cook. Like that's the reality. And there's other things that people will pay for convenience if the value is offered to them. If you are showing them the value, they're going to pay for it. Okay. Now there's different pricing models. I pay express tolls during rush hours to avoid traffic. Rocky, you nailed it. I will pay for convenience every single time. If it makes sense to pay the, listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, you guys know I'm a Disney fan. I buy that stupid lightning lane every time I go. And one time, my husband and I decided we don't need that. We're only going for one day. It was the day after I ran my first full marathon, and we lasted about 5 seconds in that lightning lane, and I bought it in the line we were waiting in. Not messing around anymore. I will pay for convenience every single time. Okay. Four most common pricing models. Now, people call this differently. We call this differently internal within our host agency. So if we have some sticklers for rules in here, no, I'm not using particular education teams terms for this, but I'm talking around them. But these are ones that make sense for me. There's, of course, the commission only model. You are allowed to do that. I told you for my first few years, you just had to deal with just the commission only. So no upfront cost charges. Commissions can vary at any time. Not all bookings offer commission. And that's a reality that some people realize the hard way. Sometimes there's bookings that offered little to no commission. Great example, air only. I can't tell you how many individuals come into our host agency and they start booking and they're only booking air only. And they're like, how do I make money? Gotta charge a service fee. If you are doing any air only and you are charging a service fee, you are clearly losing money, but you are working for nothing. Literally working yourself into the negative. And ROI is important, which stands for return on investment. If you don't know, make sure your time is worth money. Now, are your slides going to be available? And I can send them to you if you send me an email. I'll pop my email address back up at the end. I'll pop my email back in here too. You can request it. I'm always happy to share my presentation because I know it's also hard to see. So I'm happy to share it. I just pop my email in the chat. Service fee model. Now I have a more in-depth version of this. Again, I just pop my email in here. I have a chart that I have broken down that is pulled from statistics from agents in the last few years, what they've charged successfully for each individual service. So if you are interested in looking at that chart, send me an email. I will get it out to you. But agencies using fees make 60% more profit. Again, that number is different from the other number. And Rocky, mine is developed from host agency reviews. So it's a great point. If you're not familiar with host agency reviews, if you go on there, they have a chart. And I've just tweaked some things, Rocky. What I like about is the terms they use, but I think you should charge more in a few places. I'm telling my secrets right now. It just as a knowledge base in general, if you guys aren't on host agency reviews, even if you are not part of a host agency, it is a wealth of information if you're just starting out in the industry. They're a great team that works there. I'm a big fan of them. But that chart is excellent. And then I've just tweaked it a little bit because I think there's more you can do, especially because that chart that's on there is a few years old on their statistics. So I've updated it just a skosh, but happy to share that along. But fees can range anywhere from $25 to $500, right? So if you want this chart, let me know. But why I say that is because a domestic airline ticket, you can respectfully charge even $30 for a domestic airline ticket, and you're going to do all right. Okay. So that's somebody's going to Seattle, someone's going to Denver, charge them $30 for your effort. If they're going international, I'd say $50 to $100, depending on the ticket. And again, it's not that it takes a whole lot of effort for you to book that flight, but you have to search it for a little bit to find the best flights. And then God forbid something happens, you have a whole heck of a lot of work on the other end. So that is preventative maintenance in real time. And also because it pays no commission. Now, there are some, depending what host agency you're with, or what consortium you're with, you can have access to commissionable air, but it's not always commissionable. So it's always important to make sure you're making a fee on that. $25. Now, I know that seems low, but say if you're doing an excursion or a transfer only, you could just throw a $25 service fee on there. That gives you a couple extra dollars, gives you peace of mind for the work you did. It's not the end of the world. I have different feelings on now. This is, again, it's a comfort range for this on any booking, whether it's $100 and $150. Now you can do service fees in two different ways. Okay. You can do a planning fee. Now, also important piece of information here. If you are in a seller of travel licensed state, there are very specific rules to where you live and how to go about service fees. And what's important is I know individuals know that they prefer, you are not even prefer, depending on the state, you have to do it as a planning fee and it has to be discussed in advance so they know what it is. It cannot just be added in as a hidden service fee. You can run into some legal trouble there. So I don't want to speak state to state, and this is not a seller of travel situation, but just be aware of the seller of travel license. If you have a seller of travel license state, which is California, Florida, Washington, Hawaii, and I'm missing one. If somebody knows the fifth one offhand, it's not in my brain at the moment, but if you're in any of those states, I said Florida, yeah, Florida, California, Hawaii, Iowa, thank you. There are 5 states. Make sure you know the rules of your states as far as service fees and things like that. If you're in one of those states and you are not able to charge service fees like I'm talking about, reach out to your host agency, because like we have exceptions to the rule because it can be charged through us. But again, you have to, that's a very particular to who you work with. So just, I want to be clear on that. It's my little asterisk. But so there's 2 different things. You can do a planning fee, which is, hey, just so you know, this is what I charge baseline, $150, no matter the trip. This is for me to plan every aspect of your trip. It's to be your point of contact when you're traveling. It's to be your customer service when issues go wrong. This is if you need to change anything, I'm here for you. This is if a problem happens, I'm getting you home. It's talking through all that, right? It's what is involved in it. It's for all the research. It's doing for all the value searching. It's for making sure you're doing price comparisons. Maybe it's doing reservations for Disney, whatever it may be. You explain that, and that is your planning fee. That is now in that planning fee, you could make 2 choices. You can, 1, say, and that is mine. It is in addition to your trip, but it is that fee is for all the planning and then your trip is separate. That is one option. Or another option that many people do, they'll say, if they're afraid to charge a service fee, they'll do a planning fee and say that that dollar amount will be applied towards your trip. Now, the biggest piece there, you're not making any additional commission with that version. So why would someone do that? Thank you for asking. Someone would do that to retain, what did you call them earlier, Ed? Tire kickers, to kick off tire kickers. That is I need to know you're serious. This invest it. It's non-refundable. So that way, if they cancel, you know you are at the very least making something on that trip, but you apply it towards the trip. I'm not necessarily pro that idea. I'm not against it, but it's not my favorite idea because it doesn't make you any additional money. I find the set planning fee is the scariest one to imply because you're just like, this is my money. This is what I charge. Pay it, or I'm sorry, this isn't going to work out for us. It's the scariest one to imply, but it's the most successful one in actual carrying it out. A good friend of mine a few years ago just put it on paper. It's $150 for any standard, like all-inclusive cruise, just your low maintenance as far as building. Any FIT or bigger is $250. Any group is $500. She put that in place. She almost immediately had kickback. And I want that to be honest. And people are like, what? What do you mean? Because she even did it with people that were already booking with her. Within 1 year, and cannot make this up, she is crushing it. But within 1 year, she became $1 million business. This is not an exaggeration. She went from having people saying, I cannot do that, this does not work for me, to doing all right, to being $1 million business in a year. So that might not be nearly big enough for you guys that are already established, but for those of you just starting, $1 million business is a nice place to start. So, oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Rocky. That's very helpful. He shared his tiered planning fees. There's different ways you can do it. I would say at a minimum for if you're doing groups, 500, 300 to 500, depending on the type of group, solely because many wholesalers that you have to work with for groups, that is what they would charge as a cancellation penalty. So that covers you if you have it as non-refundable. God forbid anybody cancels or it doesn't work out. But between the 150 to 250 of what you charge on the initial, I don't remember what I have on my chart now that I'm talking off the cuff and I'm saying random numbers, but I have it worked out for every individual piece. You have to work out what makes sense, one for you, for your business, and also for your regionality. And that's an important piece too. Like I said, I came from an area that the economic level was not excellent. So I had to be very careful of my initial put out for service fees. But once I did it, and because I was honest and upfront about it, I never had a problem getting it. And again, that once people saw my value and they understood, another way you can go about it too is you say, hey, just so you know, in the future, for this first time, I will not do it, but I will charge a service fee in the future. That's the way you can implement it midway too. But there's two ways to do that. It's either a planning fee, it's just a charge, or it's it's got, they call it a pay and go fee, I think is what we call it internally, where they pay that, but you know it's going towards the total cost of your booking, but it's non-refundable. Both of these options should be non-refundable. And that is your money. Both of those options. Now, there's also the hybrid, which is in terms of base income while still earning supplier commissions. That's, yes, that's a little bit of what the planning fee is, but also there is what I am really referencing in the hybrid model is some people will do a planning fee and then they'll add service fees into the booking along, depending on what it is. That's a choose your own adventure. Let's be clear. If you don't want to upfront talk about your planning fee and let them know about it, and I think the best way to do that is include it in your T's and C's, your terms and conditions, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say that. And that way it's clear, it's upfront, they understand. Have them sign a piece of paper in the beginning, say, hey, this is my, or, digitally sign a commitment to, I'm going to pay this fee. I understand this is what I'm dealing with. I'm understanding what I'm getting for this. It makes that very easy. But there is another way to get service fees in there, which is just adding it in on your, say, your supplier partner sites or charging it internally with whether you have your own charging system or you go through your host or consortium. But be very careful when you do that because not every supplier partner will include that in the total cost. And I just heard an example of one of the supplier partners we work with. I will not share names, but I'm sure some of you that are on here can figure it out. They now have a service fee model, but they very clearly say this is a service fee planning charge that your travel advisor is choosing to charge. So if you have not had that conversation with your clients, it is not an easy thing to charge. So make sure they're aware of the fees if you're afraid of that. Now, there are other wholesalers that hide it and it's all part of the big cost, and that's totally fine. Just don't forget when you do it in that manner, if they were to cancel, you have to do a little bit of extra math. So, because that fee came to you, it was commission. So I don't want to get in the math of all that, but, and whether I am more pro hiding the fees and pro a planning fee is another conversation for another time. It's really what offers you most comfort. I know a lot of individual, travel advisors, what they do is they do a lot of rounding. So say a trip is $1,760 per person. So they'll charge $1,850 per person because that gives them about $90 per person that they add on as a fee. It's hidden in the service fee. They just charge it around numbers. And listen, if you have if you're building a package price, it makes that much easier to do. I'm very pro that if it's conventional, but if you have somebody that is, beating you down, nickel and diming you, you cannot do that to that individual. It has to be a planning fee and it has to be discussed. Or you have to say, I charge this service fee as I'm building if you don't want to do it as a planning fee. Again, being upfront is incredibly important. And more often than not, people know what they're getting into. It's going to be so much easier for you to work through it. And then this is a new one, and I don't know how I feel about it, but this I have seen people doing this, which is a subscription model. So whether they pay like an annual retainer for services. So this works a lot better in corporate settings. This works a lot better. And if you have somebody who books multiple trips in a year, you could say to them, hey, like if you have someone that goes on 3 trips a year, say, hey, I'm going to charge you a set rate of $500 for planning for the year. I'll book all the trips you need me to book. So again, that is a different kind of client, and that really depends on what you're bringing in as far as clientele, but it is a cool idea. I like it. I like it for the people that it makes sense for. For corporate clients, it makes a lot of sense because they're booking a ton of bookings in a year. So say you just charge them $500,000 for the year to book all their trips. It's a way you to have money in the pocket up front, and then they're comfortable to make any changes or things they might need along the way. So just some different ideas. Does all that make sense? I hope so. Come on, slide. Nope. I gotta click on it again. Hey, I just said this. Implementing service fees successfully. Be upfront, don't hide them. If you have a website, do it like Rocky did. It should be listed outright upfront. Just make it clear, make it easy. Hiding it makes it much more. Oh, I'm gonna cough. I'm so sorry. Hiding it makes it much more complicated on the back end. Yes, is it an easy way to get that money in there when people don't notice? 100%. But when the people start to dig around, it gets real nerve-wracking. And then you have to remember, what did I put on for this one? How much did I charge? What did I do? You better be good at accounting if you're hiding it. That's okay, you can. But if you charge just service fees oh my goodness, charge service fees up front and you make a chart or you put it out there like Rocky does or anyone else that you can put it in your T's and C's, whatever makes sense. You don't have to answer those questions. They just know it. They know it's part of your services. Explain the value. I handle everything, so you don't have to. That's why they're coming to you, right? At the end of the day, you're the professional. They don't want to do this. They don't want to search around. If they did, they wouldn't have called you in the first place. So make sure they know, because you're calling me, this is what I charge. Now, I know people will be like, I thought that everyone said travel advisors don't cost me any more money. You're going to have to deal with that. And the conversation you have with them is like, right, you're 100% accurate. Your trip itself will not cost you more money. And odds are I'll probably be able to find a better rate for you because I'm going to do some digging and I know where to look for it. But that digging takes time, and my time is worth money. And that leads into the next piece. If you hesitate, so will they. So you need to talk about your fees with confidence. So if that means you need to practice with your dog, if you need to practice with your children's stuffed animals, if you need to practice with your significant other, I don't care, but feel confident in saying, well, my service fee is $200 and this is what you get for that, but I handle everything so you don't even have to stress about your trip. Whatever your pitch is, I'm very big on elevator pitches, but I'll do a whole course on that another time. But have your pitch to what your value is and why you charge that fee before you even post them on your website, before you even think about putting them in your T's and C's. Feel confident and be able to deliver it. We've talked about confidence 3 weeks in a row. What you can accomplish with having some confidence in your delivery, you are going to be shocked the worlds it returns back to you. And offer a breakdown. Listen, when they understand what they're paying for, they get it. Again, when you're hiding it, this gets much more difficult. I wanted you to be aware that hiding it is an option. But when you just break it down and you say, hey, when this is the cost for this, and this is the cost for this, and this is the cost for my services, more often than not, they go, all right. And they're fine with it. And occasionally, like I said, you're gonna get that person that's like, I don't want to pay for a service fee. I could do it myself. Go ahead. I'll take my paperwork back though. Now, if you email them, it's a little more difficult, and that's going to happen, and that's okay. That person wasn't for you. That's a hardest pill to swallow in the beginning stages. That's why I said it's not always easy to do it in the beginning because you're trying to build that book of business, but know your value. And I'm proud of you, Rocky, from doing it from the beginning. Value-driven pricing. Okay. 1, experiences, not trips. Clients don't buy trips, they buy experiences. Sell them on experience. Was this last week or the week before? Sell the story. Sell the story. Sell the story. Put them in the seat. Make them understand why you're charging the fee. Make sure they understand your value. Bundle services. $200, you get a custom itinerary, 24/7 support, VIP perks. Yeah. depending on what consortium you're with, those VIP perks can come from that. If you're a Travel Leaders Network member, Select Hotels just offers free amenities. That didn't cost you anything, but they don't know that, and that comes with the value, right? Custom itinerary. Every time you are booking a trip for one of your clients, you're building a custom itinerary. You build it to their needs, to their wants, what they want included. And if you're doing a full trip, like we talked about a few weeks ago, it absolutely is a custom because you were an active listener. You listened to what they needed. You built it outright. You listened to their accommodations they needed. So they're not getting that by clicking that on the internet. They can, but they're not going to do it as good as you can. And 24/7 support. Don't let that scare you. That doesn't mean you need to give out your number and people can text you at all hours. You can do that. If you're a crazy person, you're welcome to do that. I know many individuals that do. I like my sleep. I put my phone in sleep mode from 10:20 to 7:20 every day because I like peace of mind. If you don't want peace of mind, you don't have to do that. But depending on what consortium with or host agency you're with, a lot of them offer options for that. So look into what your options are for 24/7 support. Higher retention. Agencies with bundled packages see 20 to 40% higher client retention rates. Ooh, I love that. I'll return your call or email at a reasonable hour. That word reasonable is a beautiful word. I like that, Rocky. I used to say, I worked with a 24/7 company that handled things that's not applicable anymore. But what I used to say was, during these hours, you can call here, and then you can call me during my regular business hours. And I always listed my business hours at the end of my documentation. Doesn't always work if you don't have a 24/7 team to work with, but I was able to do so, and it was quite convenient. But I like a reasonable hour. It's a good one. Because I'll tell you, the first people to call me in the middle of the night were friends and family. Always. But you will see, if you bundle package, you're going to see a 20 to 40% higher client retention rate. And the reason behind that is they cannot figure out how to book that themselves. And you listened and you pulled the pieces you needed in, and you're selling the value to them because you listened. So again, when you're looking about why you have the value and why people are going to pay you that fee, that's the reason why. Psychological pricing tactics. Okay. Anchoring, we talked about anchoring, about presenting prices. I don't know if that was last week or the week before, but that is absolutely something that can be done here. Premium package with all this included in it and all this planning fees and all this things in it. And again, we're talking a different kind of clientele. This isn't everyone, but it's $500. Or with this lower cost one and doing a little bit work and I'm only helping you with these few things, it's $250. I picked extravagant numbers there. That could be $250 and $100, whatever it may be. But you can use anchoring. It's not always easy. So I'm pretty big on setting a fee and just putting it in place. But if you're nervous, anchoring works. Charm pricing. I like this phrasing. $99 sounds cheaper than $100. That is, my children get me on that. They're like, Mom, it's $6. No, it's $6.99. My husband gets me on that. It's $599. No, it's $600. You know, like, this is my real life all the time. This is real life and reality. And if you don't think cruise lines and river cruise lines and all of our tour companies don't do the same thing in their pricing, you're crazy. So if you are doing the rounding theory, just round it down $1. That's an easy way to do that. When I said if a cruise was, say 1760, charge them 1849, charge them whatever it may be, things like that. But also you can do that in your fees. It's a $99 fee for this. It's a $199 fee for this. It's just psychological. People think they're paying less. Limited time offers. Book the hotel by Friday for a complimentary hotel upgrade. This is just, again, I'm just talking about different pricing tactics for pulling pricing in. There could actually be some manipulation to that in a sense where you're like, okay, I can get them to book with the planning fee. If they hold it in space, I can get them that upgrade because you know that the reality of the upgrade's not that big of a price difference, but you can pull it in for them, whatever it may be. You have to use some taxes there, but just don't forget, you can always use some different tactics to kind of pull different prices in. Raising prices without losing clients. This is what comes up the most with me because most of the time when I have this conversation, it's with individuals who are already established and they don't want to have to go back to their old clientele and say, oh, I don't know how to do this now. I can't charge them now. I never did charge them. But again, I did do it and then I did, and it went really well. So let me talk about it. When to raise your pricing. One, if you're fully booked, if you're getting too many low value clients, if you're offering more services. So this is a couple folds. If you're fully booked and you want to bring in more individuals and you're not, and again, fully booked to an extent, right? You have some wiggle room, but you know where you don't know where you're going to go with it. You're going to say, hey, if I'm going to bring on new clientele, I have to charge a service fee because I have to see a level of commitment to make sure you're going to continue to be in my book of business because I can't be wait. I've got too much going on. I have to make sure my time is managed correctly. Another way to do this is if you're getting a lot of lower now profit driver conversation, right? Low value, more cost effective trips. Now, this is also a conversation if you're scaling and if you have ICs and you can have them help with these kind of bookings. But if you're seeing you're getting in a lot of this space and you want to start to see more value on your trips, this is the time. Right. And it's not necessarily a problem. There's, everyone has different income levels and different spending capabilities. But like Rocky mentioned earlier, a $15,000 booker might not want to spend it, but a $2,000 booker understands the value and is willing to spend it. Right. So again, just because they're lower value clients, that's just ensuring you make the money on the back end. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose those clients. It's just handling it quickly. Oh, I'm so sorry. And if you're offering more services. Now, this is a loaded question or a loaded comment. I mean this in different ways. If you're a Disney booker and you are doing all their dining reservations, you're doing their lightning lanes, you're doing all that extra work, if you are not charging a planning fee, what are you doing? Because I know you're making not a high commission rate, and I know you're doing an incredible amount of work. Charge a service fee. If you're willing to do dining reservations on European trips, or any really dining reservation anywhere, charge a service fee. If you are, I'm trying to think of some other things. If you're doing rail, I dare say charge a service fee. Rail in Europe. Different things. Anything that's an additional, that's not your air, hotel, car transfer, should you be charging a service fee? How much planning are you putting into it? Just think about that. Give notice. So this is the easiest way to kind of implement it. You cannot do it at first. What you can do is it could be that I put starting next month. It could be starting next quarter. It could be starting next year. Give warning. You can give warning too by as people are signing your T's and C's or your terms and conditions or your documentation. Put a little star at the end, say, hey, just so you know, starting on this date, I will be implying service fees going forward. That is how I did it. So just so you know, for your next booking, my service fees will be in place. Here's what they're going to look like. So they were prepared. I got a lot of questions at that point, but then nobody coming back was concerned. And then I'm introducing some new premium travel services, right? It could be, hey, I know you've been with me for a long time. And now this gets dicey, but people get nervous at first. I'm going to offer to you at a discount at first, but just know, depending on the type of booking, these are the type of service fees that are come into play. But I will say it worked really well for me by giving notice. Frame as an upgrade. You can do this because you're going to say, I'm going to offer additional value. Where this is difficult is if you've already been crushing it on value, this doesn't go over as well. I want it available to you as an option, but it's not always the best. See results. Travel advisors who raise fees strategically see 25 to 35% higher in profits. These are different statistics from different places. This one actually came from Host Agency Reviews. The first one came from ASTA. But you're just going to see better results in it. So again, remember, give notice, be confident, be comfortable in it. It's going to feel awkward, especially if you haven't been doing it, but you're going to see a higher repeat rate, a higher return rate, more interested clients, more clients interested in the kind of bookings you want to be doing when you start to apply this. Pricing tools and tech, just some idea of places where you can apply some of this. CRM and automation, TravelJoy, client base. Client base is less popular now, but also Turn, Travify, if you're with with my host agency, we have our own CRM system. Get a CRM system to apply automation and for fee collection, especially if you want something that is PCI compliant, so you can pull credit card in safely, and make sure whatever host you're with, or if you're independent, or if you're with a consortium, make sure you have the ability to charge service fees, and a tool to do so if you cannot do it with a supplier. Reporting and profit tracking, QuickBooks, TravelWorks, track revenue for fees versus commission. I also just heard of a really cool system for revenue tracking and reporting, and I don't know the name of it. I wonder if somebody in here knows it. That it's gonna drive me nuts, but it's because it does regular business reporting and CRM system as well as QuickBooks, or kind of a QuickBooks style. This is good one, especially if you're doing internal service fees, and how you're sorting it out, and also just seeing where you can see your percentages of the commissions you're making once those service fees are applied, and it works a heck of a lot better than an Excel sheet. With that said, I know this costs money, and if you're in the beginning stages, I will never tell you to spend money you don't have. Use the Excel sheet in the beginning. Don't stress. But to get into a good bookkeeping tool is really crucial for seeing what you should be charging, how much commission you're making, and figuring out your profit drivers. Online payment systems, when I was talking about where can you charge service fees, if your host agency does it, do it through them so you're not eating all the fees. I'm just saying. But Stripe, Square, PayPal all offer options for you to do so, if you're able to do it in your state. I've said that enough, right, guys? If you're a self-travel state, please make sure you know the rules and responsibilities of your state. Okay, next steps, audit your strategy. Go back, look at your bookings. I have the worksheet. I can send it to everybody in. How much money are you leaving on the table? And I want you to know, and I want you to look at maybe the job you've moved into travel from, maybe the comparable jobs in your area. What is the dollar amount you need to be making to consider yourself successful? Are you currently making it on your dollar per hour? I'd love to hear if you think you are or not. Choose your model. Will you introduce service fees, hybrid model, membership plan? Are you going to do it as a planning fee, or are you going to do a pay and go fee? Are you just going to add these fees in and hide them? What's your plan, right? But choose a model, stick to it. Set a timeline, implement these changes within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever makes the most sense, whatever you're most comfortable with. A good time of year to imply fees is not in the middle of busy season. I'll just say it, in which we are in the middle of. Beginning of the year is a great time. Middle of the year is a great time. It's harder to do in the middle of busy season, right? Because if you got somebody on a referral and they didn't have a service fee charged to them, and then you start, it gets a little uncomfortable. And communicate it confidently. Price isn't just about money, it's about value. Don't be afraid to say it. Don't be afraid like you're spending the money out of your pocket. Most people understand if it is communicated to them well, and they understand what they're buying. Quick questions. I just wanted to pop this up. I haven't done this before, but I'm popping it up before the end slide. So if you have questions, this is your moment to pop them in the chat. And then I'm going to go through the final steps so that I'm prepared for those questions at the end. Sometimes I think this through, guys. I'm just saying. And I also just love the background of this slide. But if you have questions, now is the time. Pop them in the chat. And I'm going to go through these final stages here. Final thoughts. Again, a profitable agency is pricing confidently. They're comfortable in it. They know what they're doing. Rocky, I was so glad you were in here tonight to provide the excellent example of in his first year, he only brought in $4,500 in commission, but 1,000 of it was service fees. That's 20% of his business, 25%, almost. Essential practice. Service fees are not optional. That's the headspace you have to have for this. They're not optional. It's what brings in your money. It's what brings in your value. It's what's going to help you be successful and sustainable and help you grow. Because that extra couple dollars you're going to take in service fees is the money that you can spend on the business, not just the money you need to be taking in to survive. So that's the money you can put back and invest into your business. Professional value. You deserve to be paid. You are the professional. Your time is worth money. If you wanted to work for free, there's much more fun things to do than chase money down from clients. If you wanted to work for free, you could be making balloon animals at a park. You could be riding all the rides in Disney World. That's actually more expensive. It costs you more money to do that. But you know what I'm saying? You deserve to make money. You take the time, you invest in yourself, you're learning about these properties, you're learning about these destinations. What is your value? And sometimes that takes a minute of self-evaluation to go, what is my value? What is my expertise worth? What kind of effort am I putting into this? What do I deserve to be making? You have value, charge accordingly, and you're going to be successful. Okay, guys, I have no questions in there. That feels shocking. Anybody have a question? Thoughts? My favorite phrase, questions, comments, sarcastic remarks. I'd love to hear it. Did I talk through all the things I said I was going to talk through? Ed, you had some questions at the beginning. I want to make sure I got them by the end. I'm leaving this up here for a second. If you want my chart, if you want the worksheet, send me an email. I'm also gonna pop the Facebook group in again. I could pop it into the Facebook group tomorrow, the chart. So if you're not in there, add yourself in. Thoughts. I know we heard a lot from Rocky. Those of you that aren't charging service fees, why haven't you yet? Or is it because you just haven't had the bookings in yet? Because I know some of you are newer. If you do have the bookings in, is it a nerve thing? What's happening? What are we thinking? If those of you, I know we went over, if you cannot stay, I get it. If you have to leave, thank you so much for your time. I hope we see you next week. But if you can stay, I'm going to stay on for a little bit. How do we do fees through World Via? I know Turn gives us Stripe as an option, but there are fees with that. We have Stripe set up through World Via, Melissa. So reach out to Member Success about how you can charge fees through us. We can do it through our account, actually. You're welcome. Any other questions, thoughts, feelings? Ed, did I answer all your questions? I will tell you the scariest thing was implying my fees, starting to imply my fees. And the minute I did it, I was so happy I did it. And what I thought was going to be kickback really never was. It was a lot of, oh, did you do fees in the past? Oh, all right. Well, no, that makes sense. As a new agent, I built in fees for new clients from the beginning. Ooh, I love to hear that. I haven't had any yet, but there are my listen. And I think it's because when I started, fees were kind of cliche that for years agents were like, I just can't do it. I just can't get over it. So I'm loving hearing how many of you already are like, I have set my standard from the start. Know your value from the start. Because I can't tell you how many people grinded with me and would not charge me. I still know advisors to this day that will not charge a fee because they want to make sure that people understand that they're the best value. They're the best cost, not the best value, because they're diminishing their value not doing it. I think the best thing you said, and something I have to get better at, is explaining what's covered in my fees. Ooh, fair call. And listen, I get kind of vague in it too here. I'm going to stop sharing so we can actually talk. So if you didn't grab my email, let me know and I'll pop it in the chat. I think what's difficult about when I'm explaining it is I don't want to put words into your mouth that you don't want to be advertising, but at the same time, for me, what it was is I knew with me, I was there for questions. All like my value was I'm going to do all the planning for you. I'm doing your research. I'm going to provide options for you. You don't have to think about that. I'm bringing in all the pieces for you. I've heard everything you need, and I've created some incredible options for you. Then past this, I'm going to help you with the planning stages of getting yourself prepared to go. I'm going to review your documentation for you so you're comfortable once you're in the destination. I'm going to provide your emergency options for you if anything were to come up, and I'm there for you while you're traveling. So if something goes wrong, you can't just call the internet site. You search things on Google, but you can call me. I can help you. I can get you home. I can find your solutions. I can help you get your refund if something goes wrong and you need money back. I'm the person that can fight for you if weather goes awry and you have to cancel. Like it's sometimes you have to explain what could happen to explain your value on the back end. And that's difficult, right? Especially even like, well, we talked about how insurance is difficult. Sometimes it's difficult to sell your value in that, but it's talking through it with them and then going, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. And when you put it in terms of, you can't call, if you just book this randomly, you saw this trip on some sketchy site and you don't know what you're getting into, and you don't even know if you have transfers, or I can't tell you how many times I just heard this recently where they're like, I'm not sure if I have what? But anyways, they don't know any of the pieces of it. You know all the pieces. You know who to ask for. You know to tell them when they get to the Cancun airport to go past the crazy people in the beginning at the end of the airport and to go out the doors and look for the sign with their name on it. You know those pieces. They don't know that. So it's getting comfortable in that. And that's what's difficult. But you have to know what your value is first. And that might take a minute of you. Again, I say often working on your business, not in it, and going, what is my value? What do I offer? What are my advantages? And that's your sales pitch back to your clients. Heather, we don't do, I wouldn't do Venmo, because of your part of the host agency. So again, if you would take this offline, I could talk to this more detailed to you, but we don't want to be doing Venmo because then the money's in your hands and that gets real messy for you. I'm just going to be honest. I would stay away from that. Carolyn. Is it Carolyn? I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I was a successful home-based agent, then moved to an agency training department several years ago. I basically lost all of my clients over the years. I've been debating about getting back to being an agent, but hate the idea of working and waiting to get paid. Oof, I get that. If I get back into it, this is a must do. I'm in Florida now, so I need to check on the seller travel rules. Thank you. Karen, so Florida is one of them that I know that there are rules against it, but depending on how you get back in, just look into whether they offer options for charging service fees within whatever organization you're joining, whether it's a host or a consortium, or whether you set up your own. But that's where Florida's the one where I think you can't charge your own, and it has to be a planning fee, not it can't be like a hidden fee. So look into they have rules against it, but I know people that can do it. The individual that I was just talking about earlier that I said she just started it we talked about last quarter and she put it into place. She's in Florida, so I know it can be done. And listen, this is a way to know, like you're saying, that's the turnaround time on travel is a real thing on payment, right? Because you might be booking anywhere from 6 weeks to 18 months prior to travel. And our company ran reporting last week or the week before, and we're starting to observe how suppliers pay commissions. And it can be anywhere from 3 months before for certain cruise lines to 2 months after travel for some of the other wholesale suppliers. So then you're adding all that time in. But it's okay, Rocky. He said he's got to run. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Rocky. I hope you had a great time tonight, and thank you for all your input. It was really helpful. But the turnaround time and getting paid out sometimes can be huge. So it's hard to prepare and it's hard to build your funding that way and build your business. And Carolyn, she just said her specialty was destination weddings. It was often 2 years planning. And again, you just nail the piece that I didn't even get into. If you are doing groups or destination weddings, the amount of work that you put into those groups, you have to charge an upfront fee. You have to, because they're coming to you because they cannot do that work themselves. They need you to do this work. They need someone fighting for them and organizing it and making sure all the steps are in place. So that guarantees you money up front, guarantees that non-refundable fee that you know you're going to take in no matter what. And then you get the extra bread and butter once they've traveled, right? Because in the destination wedding space, and if anyone's ever gotten into this or any group space, everybody wants to go for the first 45 minutes. And then when you start collecting money, all of a sudden, all you hear is crickets. And so attrition is very real in that space. So if you are like, oh, I might make all this money, odds are you might not when the time comes down to it. Yep, see, she just admitted. So having a set planning fee in place when it comes to groups is crucial. Everybody at the barbecue, everybody at that family reunion, it's like, of course we want to go to Jamaica next year. And all of a sudden, that group is now 8 people. Like it can happen so fast. Destination weddings are a little bit better, but I'll even tell you, oh my God, I had a destination wedding. My family was like, of course we'll be there. We cannot wait to vacation together. I sent it to 100 people. We ended up with 30, which is exactly how I wanted it to be. That's why we got married away anyways. But the reality was I got married away because I didn't want to deal with all that. But 100 people at first were like, of course we'll be there. No, they were not. So, Heather, do I schedule one-on-one? I do, Heather, schedule one-on-one time. Send me an email. I do one-on-one time. I love doing one-on-one time. And we can and work through it. So please send me an email. Ed, it was hard for me to read your slides. Did any of the slides list the reasons for justifying your plan? No, I didn't necessarily list the reasons for justifying it because I think I just kind of talked about that. That varies on what effort you're intending on putting in. Is that what you're talking about? Like what you would put as what your value is and understanding it? Because that's explaining to them the amount of planning you're putting into place. And maybe you put that into your planning, like some people will put together, yeah, like justifying your value. Yeah, okay. And I've seen individuals do when they, so you should do, if you're bringing a new clientele, I recommend, I'm on a tangent now, but it's an important one. I recommend, especially when you get into the planning fee space, you do a 15-minute discovery call with a new client. And that call is to explain your fees, explain your services and your value, get an idea of what they want to get on board with, and if they're willing to. And if they're not, that you only spent 15 minutes on them. But if they are in that space, you go, here's what you're getting for this. And it's, I'm going to do all the planning. I'm going to search in, your, like I said, that's what I was just talking about a bit earlier. So you have to kind of take a minute and go, what is your value? What are your extra pieces you're going to do for them? And you're talking it through in that discovery call. Because then, like I said, if they're not into it, see you later. Thanks for playing. It was great getting to know you for this 5 seconds. If they are, that's when I would then say you send a documentation over, which lists what you are willing to do within that cost. Like, I do this searching, I'm available at these times. I will help you during these situations. I'll fight for your insurance claims, things like that. I'll do reservations in certain destinations. I will help you with lightning lanes in Disney, whatever it may be. I don't want to speak to specific to each depending on what your niche is or what you're booking. But that is, I didn't list specific reasons, but you can kind of have to look at your own business and break that down. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? No? I'll stay on here for a second. Just a heads up to those of you that if this is your first time here, I do apologize. Next week, I am not going to be here. I will be in Vienna, Austria for the River Cruise Expo, the AXA River Cruise Expo. So I will be unavailable because mostly time change. So I'm excited about that. I will be back the following week. Then my next event will be 2 weeks later. I will be at the Las Vegas Travel Agent Forum. I will have a booth there with my host agency. So if you're a part of it, come see me. If you're not a part of it, still come see me. I love to meet everybody at events. Then after that, if by chance anyone will be on board, I will be on the MSC World America inaugural cruise, which I'm incredibly excited about. Also, because it is for the Drew Barrymore is the godmother. Jen, you're gonna be in Vegas. Yay! Please do. I'm booth 336. And then after the MSC, then I go to Cruise 360 in Fort Lauderdale, and I will have a booth there as well. I'll be there with the whole team. I only have one individual with me in Vegas. If you're part of my host network, we are doing a member meetup. Keep an eye out for an email about that. It's coming this week. If you are in Fort Lauderdale, though, the whole team will be there. So you get to see all of our hijinks, which is exciting. So I hope I will see some of you at some of the upcoming events. Jennifer, I'll see you. Thoughts on Cruise 360, Ed? Oh, I'd love to talk about that. I think it's a great event. I think CLIA is an incredible organization. If you're humoring between Cruise 360 and Cruise World, they're very similar in concept. But the Cruise 360 is run by the CLIA organization, which I think is a nice touch because they are what runs all that. Whereas Cruise World is run by yes, I'll touch on that in a second. Where it's run by Travel Weekly. They're both very heavy cruise focused, but let's just talk about Cruise 360. It's absolutely very heavy cruise focus. With that said, you're still going to see some other suppliers there because again, we'll be there with a booth space. Everyone can technically show up and have a booth space there. But the content is very cruise heavy, as well as there you're going to see a heavy cruise, like the larger spaces at the trade show will definitely be cruise organizations, but you see a little bit of everybody. They do have great training content. They do have their general sessions are educational, and they have some good spots for conversation. I think it's a good event for cruising if cruising is your focus. Either that, or if that's not in, because I know it's soon. Cruise World in November is also another great option. It's at the same convention center, and I'm a big fan of that event as well. So if you're close to the Florida area, either one could be a good option for sure. But I will be at that event as well, Cruise World and Cruise 360. So I'm a big fan of any external travel advisor convention, because even though I love our hosts and what we put out there, I think you need to see all different shapes and sizes of training. And there's some really great individuals that come to these events and host at these events and speak at these events. And also, if Jennifer, I know you said you'll be at the Las Vegas Travel Agent Forum, our very own from World Via, Kara Brown, will be speaking. She's one of our members, and she got selected for a panel there, which is exciting. I believe that's what she got selected for. She's one of our members, and I'm excited to see her there. Also, as far as speaking at events, I'm really tangenting now, but if you're still here, I will also be at the ASTA Travel Advisor Convention in May, and Joshua Harrell, our Chief Revenue Officer, will be speaking there, which is very, very exciting. And I am actually speaking at the Future Leaders in Travel Conference in Anchorage, Alaska in September, which the idea that I'm speaking at something I'm over the moon excited about. But that's that conference is a little bit of ways away. But some really cool opportunities to see everybody from World Via over the next year if you are interested. Also, if you're interested in more free education, Joshua Harrell, who I mentioned, he's going to be speaking at Asta Travel Advisor Convention. He does a free session on Saturday mornings called Travel Marketeering, and it's all about marketing your business. So, all right, I am 20 minutes over. This is the longest I've gone over in a minute. I'm going to quickly pull up what next week's session is, because I like to do that for y'all so you have an idea. But I just want to thank you all for a wonderful week. I think this was great conversation. I hope you took something for it. I hope this was helpful. Oh, thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Carolyn. I hope you keep on coming back. I really enjoy the time we all spend together. And I am not able to do it if you guys don't show up. So enjoy next week as a break, but I will be back full of excitement after Vienna. Thanks, Ed. And next week, or I shouldn't say next week, next session, we're going to get into creating unforgettable travel experiences for your client and doing customizable trips. Thanks, James. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Go enjoy your dinners, go enjoy your family, go enjoy your TV show you're about to watch. And I will catch up with you in 2 weeks with all sorts of fun Vienna stories. So I appreciate you all, and I can't wait to see you soon. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Heather. Bye, Shanita. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Good night, Jennifer.